Hello, crew. It's back again for the very last one for anatomy and physiology. I know you're heartbroken and you're going to be going, well, why are we going to be talking about this particular next topic? And there's going to actually be a two-parter. We're going to split this one up into two smaller ones. But we're going to be talking about nutrition and metabolism. So before we get going any further, if you haven't watched the video yet on the citric acid cycle, the Krebs cycle, make sure, stop it right now and go back and watch that one. You're going to need to watch that video because it has a lot to do with what we're going to talk about when we're talking about nutrition and metabolism and how things work. I've made a huge big deal about in class about why making energy and making fuel is so important for us and our bodies. More importantly, what happens when it's not doing it correctly? And if you've got that situation, you're going to be messed up, and that's not what we want to do. And it throws off all of our body chemistries. It makes our drugs less effective. So again, when we don't produce energy effectively, we usually become acidic, causes major problems. So let's talk about nutrition and metabolism and why it does mean so much and it's so important. And again, when we eat something, we are what we eat, literally. Lipids, proteins, waters, electrolytes, all of these things are important. So again, though, we just can't, well, we can. There's banana bags, the nutrient solution that we can give IV that will have all this stuff in it. But most of the time, most of us get our fuels from either breathing, which is our oxygen, or we intake food material, have it break down in the digestive process, again, through our alimentary canal. And then it goes, it's where the food is absorbed. And then we begin to break that stuff down to where our bodies and our cells can actually use it. Okay. So a typical meal, again, it has carbohydrates, all this lovely stuff in it. Now, nutrition is the study of nutrients and how our body uses them. And we have macronutrients, which are our carbohydrates, our lipids, our proteins. And then we got our micro ones that play a little bit less role, but they have important functional roles, which is your vitamins and minerals with that. So we usually talk about the amount of fuel as a calorie. So the amount of heat needed, and a calorie is defined as the amount of heat needed to raise the water temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree centigrade. So, but nutrition, of course, we've kind of made that we've kind of done something different. So what we actually think of as caloric intake is actually a kilocalorie. Okay. So there's actually 1,000 calories in what we normally think of as 1 calorie. If we're talking about how everybody so if you look at the package of let's say a package of ramen, and it has 550 calories. Well, it's actually 550,000 calories is actually what it has. Okay. So again, cellular oxidation, it causes caloric release. So 1 gram of carbohydrates is about 4 calories. 1 gram of proteins is about 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is about 9 calories. So why is that kind of important to know? And a lot of times, and I'll give a really good example. I count carbohydrates when I eat, when I give my insulin. I have to figure out how many carbs is in there. But it's actually the reason I do that is because that helps me formulate how much insulin I need to take. The point of that is what happens if I'm eating a really fatty meal? Let's say I'm going and I'm chowing down on a big old bowl of sausage, biscuits, and gravy. And again, lots of fat in that material. It's probably going to send my blood sugar through the roof because, again, it's got 2 times the normal amount of caloric intake for me to have this. So again, digestion breaks down those nutrients so that we can use them. So not all things that the human cells cannot, there are things that the human cells can't synthesize, certain amino acids that it can't, that we actually have to get from our food product. And again, it breaks it down so it gets into the bloodstream, and then they're able to use those. Carbohydrates, again, are your sugars and starches. They are organic compounds. Matter of fact, huge organic compounds when we're talking about that. And so the energy is mostly used to power, again, cellular processes. And again, especially carbohydrates, it's used to make energy. And I've kind of been stressing that a whole lot. And we get that via grains, vegetables, glycogens, disaccharides, monosaccharides, juices have a lot of these things in them, of course. Liver enzymes, they can convert fructose and galactose into glucose. So glucose, again, is that common carbohydrate that is oxidized for fuel. By the way, and we'll talk about the sucroses here in just a second. But again, usually the cellulose, by the way, it's usually made by plant material, and it's not digestible by humans. Cellulose, that's right, we can't eat that. Cows, other animals have enzymes that help break the cellulose down into a form where they can convert it to glucose. So a glycogen, by the way, is formed by excess glucose. So these are your fat stores, if you will. And again, most of the time, muscles and livers have really good glycogen stores. So again, there's going to be times where we can't eat or are unable to eat, and that's where we're going to find energy it will take it from these glycogen stores. Now, your carbohydrates, again, it's got extra glucose that converts it into fat. Okay, so, and we usually, when we're burning up fuels, we use our glucose first. We'll turn the glycogen into glucose. And then lastly, we're going to actually turn our fats and our proteins back into fuels that we can use to metabolize. With me saying that, by the way, a lot of the fad diets love to put you into where you're burning up, any diet for that matter, you have to, if you want to burn up fat, you actually have to burn up the fat stores, which actually is a very acidic process. So one of the things that you'll see these guys walking around with is the keto sticks. And so it actually is detecting ketones are actually a byproduct of the breakdown of fat. When we're dealing with a diabetic who's not getting enough insulin, they usually are in ketoacidosis. Okay. And ketosis is absolutely needed to break down the fats and the proteins. And again, in certain cases, yeah, you kind of want to be able to do that, especially if you're trying to lose weight. Okay. This is something that you're going to do. Okay. Now, again, carbohydrates are used by the cells. They synthesize biochemicals, and all of these things, again, is needed in order to produce RNA, DNA, and to be able to synthesize different materials. Normally, 125 to 175 grams of carbohydrates should be consumed daily. And that's in order to maintain your fuel levels and your fuel stock. Now, lipids, these are the fatty substances, oils can contain these. And just like anything else, there's good and there's bad, okay? It includes fats, cholesterols, and phospholipids. By the way, cholesterol our body makes naturally. So, again, we try to keep those at a manageable level. But to say, I'm going to eliminate all of my cholesterol. Well, guys, your brain needs cholesterol, actually, in order to function. So I would say probably not to do that. But again, triglycerides, saturated fats, unsaturated fats, these are all examples of lipids within the body. Cholesterol, it supplies energy. It's a beta oxidation. It's an essential fatty acid. And again, they all function. They help maintain a fuel level for us. Okay. So just remember that lipids are denser than proteins. Remember that our cell layers are actually made out of a bilipid barrier. So those lipoproteins, again, are used in, again, very low density lipoproteins, high density lipoproteins. And we talk about a lot of these when we're talking about cholesterol levels, LDLs, HDLs. And again, the liver actually controls the amount of cholesterol that is in the body. But remember that we have to have lipids in order to maintain cellular function. Okay. So, by the way, the cholesterol does not actually create the energy. Triglycerides, basically, those are going to be turned into adipose tissue or fat. And then your fat intake must be enough to carry the fat-soluble vitamins. Remember, you have to have a certain amount of it. And it should not eat more than 30% of your daily calories. They should be less than that for your fat intake. Remember that if you're eating animal product, you're probably eating fat along with the muscle mass that you're actually eating with that. And all the vegetarians are in the room like, oh, we shouldn't, that's why we shouldn't eat animals. Well, there's certain oils, peanut oils, sunflower oils. Again, they're better for you, and not getting into the nutritional side of it, that they are better for you. But remember, you got to still have a certain amount of fats in your body in order for it to function correctly. Your proteins. Again, these guys are created by amino acids. A lot of things are made out of proteins, hormones, antibodies, enzymes, plasma proteins, muscle. They're all made of proteins. Okay. And again, it's, they lose via deanimation, they lose the nitrogen-containing portions. And this is usually done in the liver. And then we actually usually convert those that byproduct into urea, and then we excrete it. But again, protein-rich foods, nuts, milk, cheese, eggs, legumes in lesser amounts, but your meats, your fishes, your poultries, and again, the huge nutritional issues with that. Again, most of us are usually carnivores or omnivores. We eat both meats and all these materials. Okay, but by the way, can you survive by just eating the cereals, the legumes, the nuts? Yes, absolutely you can. There's been people that have done it for years and years and years. Proteins, all but 9 of the required amino acids can be synthesized by the body, so we can actually make these, but there are some that are required in order to that we cannot make naturally. And we really need these guys for proper growth and repair. Okay. So again, your classes of proteins are complete, incompletes, or partially completes. And you should have about 0.8 grams per day of your body weight, and that should be ideal body weight, in order to maintain it's the recommended amount of daily protein that you should have. Vitamins. These guys are organic compounds. They are required for normal metabolism. Again, there's fat soluble, water soluble vitamins, and I would probably know those. These guys right here. They're fat soluble. There's Aid K is how I remember it. Aid K is the ones that are fat soluble. Your water solubles are all your B complex, and then your vitamin C's. Okay. So those are the ones that actually are water soluble. Okay. So again, lovely table here. I would probably maybe know a little bit about this table, about where to get certain sources. Remember your vitamin D, your skin also makes a little bit of it. Again, make sure that I would take a quick look at that. Make sure that you know where these kind of come from. Minerals are inorganic elements, but they are some processes that actually use this. We can get it from animals, but they can also, we can get it from plant foods or from animals that have eaten the plants, and they're usually concentrated in the bones and the teeth. That's where you're going to find your minerals. Phosphorus is the big one, more than likely. A little bit of iron is in there. Remember, iron is needed so that it can make the heme molecules that carry the oxygen in our blood. All right. Inorganic compounds, we have calcium phosphate, which of course is for bones, and then free ions in the blood, of course, sodium, chlorine, calcium. Of course, we have to have those for different physiological processes, muscle movement being the big one. All right, so again, the minerals, they're present in enzymes. They affect osmotic pressures, which is kind of a good thing because that's sometimes how we treat trying to get a fluid shift of water in and out. And remember the other functions that we have, blood coagulation, pH of the body, muscle fiber contraction. Again, we kind of covered those just a little bit earlier. And then calcium and phosphorus, by the way, make up about 75% of your body's mineral elements. Those are your major minerals. And then you got trace elements, which are found in very little amounts. Manganese there's other ones listed in your book. But again, very, very little of these guys that are going through. Again, we refer to those as trace elements. All right, we're going to hold up because we're going to talk about what happens when we are not nutritionally good. So we'll talk about that one on the next video. See you then.